New video in defense of the parts bin build. So here we have like a 1980s, totally boring looking Schwinn, except for this decal right here which says Super Sport. And this decal right here which says Champion number 2 butted Tongay tubes. So this is like top tier Schwinn Super Sport, just from a weird era. So it doesn't look like the cool ones from the 70s and whatever. It looks like a Schwinn Sprint. I think it's pretty hot. It's got some chrome under the stays and the dropouts. It's got a little bit of a horizontal stay. Scored this at Sunday Salvage Sales a few weeks ago, and this is a rear single speed flip-flop fixed gear freewheel wheel, and it's never had a brake on it. Stickers look nice. It's a black formula hub. The single speeds are always more popular. They're funner and easier and cheaper to build. You can sell them for less, and people always buy them, especially if they're selling for less. So I'm going to do a parts build single speed. I got this wheel donated from a friend. It is a black formula or whatever front hub to a gold deep V. This will be a super fun fixie build. So I'm going to do it as a fixed gear. I'm going to do just a front brake. Cool. The highest end scruffy random parts I have to make it cool, but not like, you know, super nice. I'm cheating slightly in that I've already gone through and made sure the wheels were round and true and had good spoke tension and all that stuff. So I know the wheels are doped and ready to go. I've been digging around just a little to find some parts. I got a nice matching set of these Hutchinson Epsilon 728s with barely any to 0 miles on them. But since the rims are mismatched, you know, some other stuff, I might dig a little harder through my used tire collection and find some cool mismatch stuff, if it seems cool. I got this recently, the salvage sale, I think. It's a Diacomp front brake and BMX lever. This is super fixy and cool. I got this at a swap meet a while ago, or in a parts bin of junk. It's a race face bar. It's an early one. It's wide, it's cool, it's mountain bikey, but it's like uprighty. So it's like higher end and fixed gear name brand. I got some kind of scuffy Sagino cranks real cheap at a swap meet. I got a little Sagino messenger ring. It's a little worn out. It's a little weird, but you know, it's kind of cool for a fixed gear build, and it'll hold the new chain, and you can run fixed gear stuff a lot more worn out than other stuff. So we got the chainring bolts on it. It adds some bling bling, some name appeal. I got this ridiculous green stem. It was powder coated, and they realized that it wouldn't fit in a bike, and they sanded through it, and blah blah blah. Got it at a swap meet or something. It's kind of cool. Maybe I'll use it. Maybe I'll dig around. You know, it's going to be a parts build bin, so these are just some random parts I grabbed. I always go through and switch and flip and flop and swap stuff. Try and find a cooler seat post. Try and find a cooler saddle. I'm sure I got a bottom bracket in here somewhere. But this junk's a good start, so let's get building. First thing I'm going to do is, this is probably 126 spaced frame. I got it at 121, bro. So I've already squeezed it, or somebody else built a single speed and squeezed it. I'm going to use my old Frame-A-Lama gauge. In previous videos I've showed how to do this with a homemade one made out of like some old yardsticks and a couple nuts and bolts. I've showed how to do this with a string. You can tie a string between the dropouts and up around the head tube and measure off the string. But this gauge is the right tool, and if you have it, you might as well use it. So it measures flat against the seat tube and the head tube. It comes up and just kisses this dropout. And then we can flip it to the other side and do the same thing. I don't want to fight this frame by myself. It's real close. It's like 3 millimeters off. It's not a problem, especially for a beater fixed gear bike. This is a handmade frame. I'd be mad and move it. But you do more damage pushing frames around a whole bunch of times than by letting me off just an unnoticeable amount. Now a fork has to be dead on, otherwise your bike will pull to one direction. Rear end, I've seen them off like a ½ inch, and bike's tracked right just fine. I am going to do a dropout alignment check. Make sure these dropouts are actually kind of in face with each other and not wonky and weird and putting weird pressure on the bearings. You know, it's the most important thing in the world. No. Will it keep your rear hub from dying a lot faster? Yes. Should it be done? Yes. Do you need these fancy, expensive tools to do it? Not really. I've seen guys just do it with long bolts and a couple of nuts on both sides, so you can run them through and get the bolts. You know, if the dropout's bent, the bolt line up with that, yeah. Bend the whole thing. either with a big adjustable wrench or with the bolts themselves until they're about aligned. So you can see what I'm talking about here. This tool's bolted in, and this is letting me know this one's bent up a little bit. Maybe this one's a little mangled too. So I need to make this gap. This gap's huge down here. You can see it. So I need to bend this guy down and make this gap right. Get closer. Too far, don't go too crazy. You've ever taken a pop can, twisted that tab back and forth 5 or 6 times till it snaps. You know how steel works. Couple little gentle bends to make these things right so it doesn't burn out the bearings, but nothing too crazy, and don't go back and forth too many times. So they're real close now. Bang a ring. I'm going to use this old hand Rossmann tire checker gauge real quick just to see what size tire will fit in here. Do you have to just know? Can you eyeball it? Yes. Can you just throw a tire on your wheel and see that fits? Yes, but it's a lot of work. Change out a tire 2-3 times. Alright, so those tires are 28s. I got a lot of 28s right now. I got my fake tire. It's a 734. Put it on the 700C slot. 34 will clear. 28 will clear better. And it is tight, tight, tight. I think it'll be fine. Yeah. 34 would be real tight. 28 would be cool. Let's do the front real quick so you can see. So this is I'm just using dummy axles out of a old frame, quickly to hold it in place. But frame builders make real dummy axles. 700, 34. So this is 700C. This is 34 width. So this is exactly how a 34 tire will fit. And you can see there's a little gap. Real tight, too tight for 34s. Probably alright with 32s. Definitely okay with 28s. I'm going to throw this front wheel in just to make sure this fork's not bent or tweaked. Check the clearance. You can measure it and stuff. My finger knuckles are about the same. It's real close. Almost centered. It might be off like a mil. I think it'll be alright. Let's get in this bottom bracket. I'm going to do some real boring cleaning out the rust with a stainless steel wire brush, scraping those threads, and giving this frame a little bit of a wipe down because it's cruddy. A friend who owns another shop has too many bikes. He's selling some projects. I went out to look, and he had a ton of stuff, including this frame, which might have a few parts on it. And it was like 40 bucks, and it was a super sport, and I grabbed it. I'm really into 80s road bikes. I don't know why. They're fun, they're cool, they're the best time you can have for cheap. So I snapped it up along with 4 or 5 or 6 other bikes, made a video on it. And I have to run to Harbor Freight. I feel like there's 1 or 2 other things I needed there too. I'll run down there and get some clean rags. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's fixed gear. It's winter time, it's all random parts build. Second someone starts riding, it's going to get gross and crusty again immediately. But a little attention detail, getting the little windows and getting the crust out. Definitely get the big gross shit off. Well, let's get inside this bottom bracket. Get some of this rust and crust out. Get a fillet full of grease. A new sealed cartridge bottom bracket. It'll be nice. Alright. Gotta start making decisions. Grown up would do the overhaul the headset first. It's so boring, I want to do the cool build. Alright, headset it is. Blomp, blomp, blomp. Hold this lower cup. Get on this upper cup. Give it a little... Oh, it is loose. That was nice. It's got one of these stupid threaded lock rings. I hate them. Probably have a tool for it somewhere, but I definitely have these adjustable pliers. So I can grab this threaded lock ring without damaging the lower cup threads. I'm sure some better channel locks would get this off, because I always have. But I also have this old weird German tool, which is a little hinged little cup dude. Alright, junk. Cool. Like I mentioned in a lot of other videos, I'm going to check and make sure that this headset's not dead before we rebuild it. And most of the time, the most damage is in the back side of the fork crown on the crown race, because it's the lowest point in the headset and that's where stuff sits. And this definitely has somewhere. Kind of a lot. Maybe we'll do a headset. Maybe we can find a cool black one. All this black junk. You know what? I'm just going to say yes. The old parts build is getting a few more parts out of the old stash. It's a shame. It's a pretty cool headset. Tange fucking. It's recycling now. Usually, I drive off the crown race by flipping upside down, putting on something soft, like a 2x4 and a rag, taking a punch and a hammer and hammering it off. There's a bunch of crown race removal tools like this one. It's got this fancy tool, so I'm going to use it. So these little black plates are little wedges, so you can get in between the crown race and the fork. Squeeze this up, hold them in place. Just kind of tighten her down. And then in theory, this is a slide hammer. Well, that's not what it's supposed to do. Wow, it is not moving at all. I've only used this tool once before and it worked amazing. There we go, it hammered off the race. And definitely scuffed the paint a little bit. Very annoying, but whatever, I guess. This is an American bike, built in Japan. It's Tange fork. It's probably ISO, maybe. So the two common types of 1-inch thread headset, other than like French and Italian, is JAS or ISO. JAS is Japanese Industrial Standard. JAS is 27 crown race. ISO is 26.4. So tools are often not accurate enough to tell the difference, because it is 0.2 up here and 0.4 down there. So I'm getting 30, I'm getting 27. I think it's JAS. I'm gonna go dig through some parts. Here's one of my mini parts bins. This one has headsets and shifters in it. Bar and plugs and weird other things. Here's a black one. Here's some real old. Chrome, a cool alloy hata. So let's play with some of this junk. Should we do this all black one? Check it out first. Maybe. Cool. I'm gonna check and see if it's stamped anywhere, what size it is. Give us a clue. This is not. Let's go make sure it's not dead. It looks really, really good. I checked it and cleaned it before I put it in here. It's also Tange, Japan. Let's measure some junk. It's also sealed. I think this is 27, I think. This sure looks like it's right on the line for 30. Maybe this is the right size. It says MTB on it. Is that less cool for my fixed gear? Nah. Sealed and it's black. It's cool. Okay, it goes on a little bit. I was afraid if this was 27.0 and this was 26.4, it really wouldn't go on at all. So stuff's all a friction fit. So it's made to be hammered in place. So it's like the crown race is actually 26.5 and the race you hammer on is 26.4. So it's like tight. That way it won't move. You can get good headset adjustments. It'll never come loose. And you have to hammer it off and hammer it on. So it's replaceable. Oh, there's also this Levin CDS. It's more 80s. It's more cool. Let's check it out first too. Oh, this is not anywhere near 27.0. This is probably 26.4. This is probably ISO. So no to this cool one. It's ISO, which is like an English standard. Very similar to Italian, technically interchangeable. The threads are a little bit different. They're like a friction fit or an interference fit. They'll work. Mountain bike it is. we're gonna have fun installing a new crown race. So I'm gonna use this mat and hammer this fork on. See, all it's gonna do is damage this mat. It's not gonna damage the fork tips. Sometimes I'll use this guy. If you have one, you can use it, especially if you don't have some soft mats. This is like a car rack adapter you can clamp your fork into. It keeps it from mangling and spread the pressure. I don't think wood's soft enough, so I don't do this with wood. I'm going to put the new crown race on. Bada bing. I'm going to take an old crown race and flip it upside down and drop it on, so that just the top of the crown race way away from the bearing surface are touching each other. It's not going to mangle the bearing surface. Now Park does make a right tool for this. It's basically this with a bunch of aluminum adapters down here for different races. It's really only for paper thin crown races like Chris King and aluminum headsets and stuff like that. It'll just mangle those aluminum adapters on old steel stuff. And dump this dude on here. This is just going to sit on the new crown race, pushing against the old crown race. Years before I had one of these Park tubes, I have absolutely used basically cheater bars, like old cutout top tubes or down tubes from bikes. They'll fit right over. You don't get a down or seat tubes, 28/6, they'll slide right over. I've seen guys just use chunks of PVC pipe they found laying on the ground while they're walking. Like, oh, this is perfect. And it'll do one or two before it cracks and splits. I got this heavy steel Park one I like to use for this. It's got a real top you can bash on. I've also got the more modern one, which I think is also steel, and it has all the kit and stuff, but that's for something else. And then just bash. Oops. Did you hear that ting? That ting means it's probably set. It goes ping, ping, ting, ting. Changes tone, but I'm going to look all the way around. Take this dude off. I'm going to look all the way around. Make sure there's not any gaps or daylight or anything. Every once in a while you hear that tone change and you'll still see a little daylight, and it needs one more good hit. But even in this dark old basement, this looks pretty good. So now I got the upper cup and the lower cup. We're going to do them one at a time. Oh, I didn't even want to start at all. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? Oh, the bottom one starts. That's a good sign. Sticker's a little mangled. It's a little mangled. I want to put it in the coolest looking spot. I'll go seal the mechanism out. Huh. That almost pushes in, but not quite. I think it'll be fine. Could try the aluminum tape trick again, which is on the last bike. Should we? Why not? When something pushes almost all the way in or all the way in, but you know it's the right size, it's not really bueno. There are a couple of tricks. So I gave up, I got mad, I looked for my tape, I couldn't find it. So, in the spirit of this being a full parts build from Junk Parts, I went right to the store. I bought something I don't know. Went to Harbor Freight. Ooh, I got me a Gatorade. I got me some more shop towels. I got a roll of $6.99 for some foil tape. I got enough to do every bike for the rest of my life. Got some more brass brushes for scrubbing and cleaning the gun cloth parts. I got some pegboard pegs, some super glue, a pick set I'm going to give to Tomcat. Every time I go work there at a shop, there's going to be picks and it drives me insane. This magnetic tray, because I lost a screw the other day, I couldn't find it. I'm going to stick this on the washer machine. I'm working here, I can stick bolts and stuff in here and not have them disappear into the carpet. Alright, so we're going to do the metal tape trick. So as you can see, there's a little ring in here. This bottom ring is actually the machine mark, so that's where this tube was machined to fit a headset cup. And it's just a little too loose. I think you get a little too loose from riding with a headset loose. You beat your fork back and forth, you can stretch this metal. It can also just be machined a little too loose. That happens, machines get dull, these little burrs on the end, little burrs sort of can cut slightly too big. It's not cool. So I'm just going to tear a little piece of this tape. Tear a little chunk, tear this in half too. It's real metal, it's real aluminum. It's pretty thin, it's just thick enough. Give that backing, I'm going to stick it in here. I want it low. Sticking it in here where the cup presses in. I don't want any sticking out the top. I don't want it to make the cup sit weird or be weird. So you can see I got this aluminum tape just in here. just making it a little bit tighter, filling up a little bit more space. Put it on with the sticker falling apart to the back. Still haven't got a headset press. These are probably fine. I'm going to take this block of wood to sort of distribute the force evenly, and this hammer. It's going in pretty evenly. Oh, none of my tools like this. Come on, one more good hit. It's mostly my imagination. I think it's fine. Might be a little bit of that aluminum tape. Top was fine, so I'm just gonna it's a little crooked, I don't like that at all. So I'm trying to just hit this side. Woo! Still a little on this side. That looks good, no gaps, no daylight around. And this head tube really is machined to be perfectly flat. Otherwise, if it's a little crooked, you're going to put too much pressure on the bearings in one spot and make them die faster. So now, we're just going to put the fresh grease in, the fork back together, and then we can finally start doing the actual build. Squeeze in some grease from a Philwood grease tube. Just about any old waterproof grease is pretty good for bikes. Yeah, I think that weird dust seal goes in the bottom. It makes more sense. That's where all the grime comes up. I really like sealed headsets with dust seals because it's rainy and grimy here. It has about 4 threads in it. So even with the lock ring, I think I'm gonna need a couple of spacers. So let's do that. Here's my handy dandy headset spacer kit. It's got a couple new kits in here, a bunch of used parts in here. That silver lock ring, I think I might be able to fit 2 skinny silver or black spacers on and sandwich it, make it pretty cool. Black, silver, black, and there's only like 2 threads. God, the world is such a jerk. Maybe just the one. Let's give it a shot. Yeah. Just the one. Waterproof. MTV. This headset's probably cool and rare and valuable. Wah wah. And we'll come back and we'll do a real headset adjustment once the bike's done and on the ground. Otherwise you can't tell. Maybe let's test fit this brake. I only grabbed it by about 1.5, 2 threads. But it's only like 1 millimeter from hitting that crown, so it's, we're gonna call that good enough. Yeah. I could do the wheels and then be in the way for the rest of the build. Here is my box O bottom bracket shells. They're mostly sealed cartridge and all kinds of different lengths, mostly mountain bikey stuff. Sure, I got a couple English shorties in here somewhere. Got my old calipers out. And checks in these bottom brackets. Not only do you need to measure the overall length, like this is a 118, you also want to measure the jut. Let me find short ones, which is just from the drive side cup out to the end. Because sometimes bottom brackets will be like a 122 or a 110, they'll have the same jut. So you put it on, you're like, oh, my cranks are not nearly far enough out, they have to come out like 4 more millimeters. You try like 2 other bottom brackets that are wider, and you're like, the crank's still in the same spot, because the jut's the same. You're like, that's so dumb. It's like a 16 jut. See, this 113 has it's in like 3 millimeters closer than this like 118. So even though it's a smaller bottom bracket, it's put your cranks out farther. This is a 110. The jut's in a couple of mils. It's a used bottom bracket. It's a cheap bottom bracket. I don't care about it. It's already got some crusty crank bolts. This might be the jam. It's a Tonge 113. Oh yeah, it's a 113. It's like out like 4 or 5 millimeters more than that 110. You never force bottom bracket threads. They don't catch right, or they feel weird. They're getting cross thread. They're not going in right. You just pull it out and start over again. The drive side's reverse thread. Instead of righty-tighty, it's going to be lefty-tighty. That seems like it's going in all right. Grease all up in these threads. Grease all over. I hate having greasy hands. We know that they're straight. We know it's going in. We put the tool on. It comes straight, so I can see it's still really rocket smooth. Always get the drive side cup all the way in. Sometimes if you get this cup in, the non-drive in, too far or too crooked, it'll keep the drive side from getting in and bottoming out and being tight, which is what we need. Oh, tighty. This non-drive is righty-tighty. I think that'll be fine. You really want the center of your outer chainring, your single speed chainring, at about 42.5 up to about 45 will be fine. I think that's what this will be once it's pressed on. Press this on with my greasy hands. These are just the 8mm crank bolts. They just thread in. I think that'll be perfect. I got plenty of clearance on the stays. We're golden. I'll do the other one and put the ring on. And we're back. It's probably been like a week or two. I wasn't really sure I was going with this. I was really happy with some stuff. But I got a couple of cool scores. The last Sunday salvage sale, I got a black, glossy black, no logo, 27.2 seat post. I'm assuming this bike is 27.2 because it's champion butted tubes and super sport. So this will be cool. I had that flat black stem on here and I was like, no, it doesn't look right with the gloss black. I'm like, maybe this silver one will work. I decided to dig through my stems. I found a vintage gloss black Sakai stem. I think it'll work. It's a little old, it's a little dull. I think it'll work. It's vintage and cool. But the real score, I wasn't happy with any of the pedal options or toe strap options. The real score, the last Sunday salvage sales, was these golden Whalego pedals. So they have like gold cages on silver pedals. I'm sure I'll put like better toe clips and straps on, probably, most likely. I was thinking about mismatching the tires, but I don't really have a mismatch set I like. Like I got a 1/725 rear with reflective sidewall would be cool. I got some like Pan Racer Messengers in 28 I thought about using. This is a perfect bike for mismatched tires if I had a set. I still have these Hutchinsons. They're kind of hard. They're a little thick. They're brand new. I guess we can use these. First thing I'm going to do is pop these wheels on. I got a big old bag of used 732 Presta tubes that have all been pumped up and hung off a handlebar for a week and held their pressure. So I'm going to use a set of these. I also remember this back wheel got a big old 19 tooth cog. Too big, bro. But I just dug through. I got a Dura-Ace one the other day. I don't know where I put it. But I did find this 16 tooth Surly. 4216. That's a pretty good size. A little hard, a little easy. Perfect for a young guy. You can always put a 17 tooth one on if you want later. Gotta find a couple of these with long valves because we got the deep V. Bought these tires at the salvage sale, so I probably paid $5 a piece for them. They're already brand new. 40 for the bike. Salvage sale the rest of the parts. It's a good chance of being this under 100. I'm definitely going to ask like 3. 3 seems like a pretty decent price for a freshly built, everything overhauled, everything checked out, everything good, rideable, single speed bike. By single speed I mean hella dope fixie. Pop. Back tire on. Already run into a snafu on the front. The rim tape had shrunk and shifted and it's not sticky at all anymore. So it's got to go. Got a new rim tape. Got a box of this stuff at a swap meet not too long ago for super cheap. So that's cool. Sort of the medium width, which I like for most stuff. Probably get away with the narrow too on road rims. Boom. Front tire on. Logo's lined up with the valve stem. We're gonna keep it classy. We're gonna keep it pro. by putting on the stupid little brass ring and a nice little valve cap. Nice finished look. Beautiful. You can see on here, this lock ring's got a little damage. I think we can get it off. I think it'll be cool. I got the Hosan lock ring tool. Now the cog is threaded on righty-tighty, so the chain will pull it tighter. So the lock ring is tightened against it, reverse thread. So the lock ring is righty-loosey. And that worked. Often these things are so tight, I put the lock ring tool on, put this thing up against a bench or something, and stomp on it with my heel to get it to break loose. And they really ought to be that tight. Especially if you do a lot of skip stops, skids, but a lot of skips. It is real easy to make this cog come loose. So as lock ring's loose at all, this cog can come loose. If the cog comes loose, then every time you skip stop or stand on it really hard, you're and every time you do that, you damage those threads. If you do that 5, 10, 15 times, you're going to strip out the threads. And instead of having a fixed free hub, you're going to have a free hub with a stripped out fixed side. So you can always put a free wheel on, flip the wheel over, and still run it, but it ain't cool. So cogs come in both 1/8 inch and 3/32. So you need 1/8 inch and 3/32 chain whips. Because the 3/32 will not slide over an 1/8 inch. So I got it down, and this should be right high, so it should be lefty-loosey. Got it into my knee, but you can do this with a workbench. Ooh. That's hard, man. Into my knee, just to stabilize it. Oh, it's just twisting. Ew. Just bent this whole fucking tool. I guess that is on pretty tight. Oh. It's so tight, I'm just bending my tool. Oh my god. Alright, X tools, you're clearly too garbage to actually function. I broke that cheap X tool, completely bent in half. And broke the metal. Don't buy cheap, non-name brand tools. This totally sucks. Luckily I have another chain whip, which I think is 3/32. It's made out of, looks like American sheet steel, instead of whatever that thing was made out of. Maybe it will work. Yay, it's 1/8 inch. Against the wall. And that did it. See, I had to stomp on it a little bit, but removing the tool, removing the fixed gear cog before bending the tool is very important. Threads right off. Little pant leg. Wipe off some old grease. Spec these threads. Also gonna wipe off the hub a little bit because you know it's dirty. It's a nice fresh build. We want it to look clean and cool. Be a little thoughtful about it. Smush a little grease inside these fresh threads on the cog and lock ring. Not get them all over my hands, and I got it all over my hands. Be gentle. You never force threads, especially fine threads. So we line it up, it doesn't start. Keep going backwards a little bit, then trying again. Maybe it's you trying to force it on crooked. Like just let the threads find themselves. Close your eyes if you have to. Try and feel it out. Pretty tight. First thread lock ring. Feeling it out nice and gentle. You can stomp on this too if you want, but I don't want it to fall off or damage the teeth, so I'm just gonna cinch it up pretty hard. I'm pretty tough. Got leverage going down. It's probably on plenty tight. Excess grease out the way. Beautiful. Now I do single speed wheels. I'm going to set it up. It's got horizontal dropouts, like track ends or a lot of old road stuff. I'm going to set it up about the front of the dropout. So it can't really go any farther forward, but still is in the dropout completely. I'm doing this on purpose. So when we set the chain, You can cut the chain as short as possible, then slide the wheel back just a little bit to make the chain nice and taut. It's real close to that bridge. I probably couldn't have got a 32. Basically be touching. And this is tight back here, but you can see daylight all the way around. It's got damn near 1/4 of an inch, which is plenty of room for gravel and nonsense. Toe overlap's only going to be minorly severe, which is how it should be on a fast bike. Here's some chrome, no-name brand toe cages, and pretty good shape leather, no-name brand Welgo straps. It's going to be better and cooler than what we got. I'd rather use cheap steel than cheap plastic, especially on a fixed gear. You're going to be doing skid stops and stuff. Your life's going to depend on stopping. If the strap breaks and the cage breaks, you're definitely going to die. Although they already are on there, I sure could just leave them. And they're black. Am I going to cheap out and do that? Yeah. I take back everything I said. Let's try and die. Whoever buys these is probably going to put expensive flat pedals on and Velcro straps anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Or they can go buy some NJS straps. Oh, gold pedals, gold rim, gold bars. A little turkey without being out of control turkey. Ooh yeah. Boo yeah. Oh. I was like, oh, I'm trying to find a chain. All 30 seconds. This is not. This is 1/8 inch. Yes, you can mix and match. You can have an 1/8 inch cog or chainring and a 3/30 seconds cog or chainring. You just use the bigger 1/8 inch chain. No big deal. See if you're big enough. So I don't really use used chains unless they're like basically brand new, and often the 1/8 inch ones, because it doesn't really matter if it's worn out or whatever a little bit. And it looks plenty long. Oh, it is, just barely. So I just hooked it over. So in the front of the dropout, we know we're going to go slide back, so it needs to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to try and find the best spot. So it looks like it's either perfectly on this link, or we have to go back a whole link, which we can't do. We're already in the front of the dropout, but we're not too far forward. I think we can do this link, and it'll be fine. And it won't slide all the way back to the very back of the dropout, but it's got plenty of clearance, so it's totally fine where it is. So this is a single speed chain. There's no quick link. I could probably find an 1/8 inch KMC quick link somewhere. So I'm going to push this pin like 80% of the way out, but not the whole way out. So I'm leaving this pin dangling out. Cut this off, and it leaves a little lip on the inside too for the new side to hook onto. So it's sitting in that lip, it's hooked together, it's holding it in place for me to push this pin back through. This is exactly what you want. If you push that pin all the way out, you'll never get it restarted. You need to go find a quick link, splice another chunk of chain, push it through till it matches the other ones, like a millimeter still sticking out. Check the back side, make sure it's got at least that much, got a little bit more. This link's gonna be all tight now. People say you oil them, work them forward and back. Doesn't really work. They never work from side to side. I always work from side to side. Sorry, wheel. Sorry for being in your way, master wheel. You can't have a tight spot, so you gotta go feel around to make sure wherever you're working is not tight, and it isn't. Now we can put this wheel in for real. Chain on the cog. Chain on the chain ring. Get it in the dropout. Slide her back. Make sure nothing's too tight and holding you in place. I have to slide it back. I have to look down here at the bridges. Make sure it looks even. Make sure the tire's not rubbing one bridge or the other. Pull her back straight. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. Make sure it's still straight. Tighten it up a little bit. Tighten it up a little bit. Now we can check chain tension. So the chain, you do not want to be tight. If it's too tight, it's going to destroy these teeth. This is pretty loose. You usually want like about a 1/2 inch deflection, and this is more than that. I like to go all the way around, because often there's one tight spot. Like these things are both egg-shaped, or one of them is egg-shaped. You'll find a tight spot. If you do, you want to tune it to that spot. I'm not feeling one though, it's nice. Loosen this up and try again. Sometimes what I'll do is even pull the wheel a little crooked on purpose. Tighten this side up. Nope, that's also what I want. Now this side's rocket tight. Looks pretty straight. Check this side. Sometimes you tighten these bolts, the bolts will dig into the face and walk and make the wheel come crooked. So and now it's too tight. Oh, there's a loose spot. Loose, loose, loose. Loose, loose, loose. Where's that tight spot at? Did we lose it? So the only tight spot still has about a 1/2 inch deflection. If the wheel's in straight, I'm saying it's good enough. Now if it's way too loose, you run the risk of having your chain derail and pop off. If it's way too tight, you destroy everything. Track racers run their chains super loose to keep things from wearing out. I'm going to thread these little drop-out adjuster screws down for absolutely no reason at all. Make them less likely to get bent or broken. Make it look more pro. Dug around a little bit and I found this silver set of reusable road shoes. They got some cool stop salmon pads in them, but they're about dead. I got some new mismatched ones. I just have a single set of these, Super 2s. A little silver is good. Bike's got a silver ring, it's got some silver bolts, silver chain, silver machining and nuts. So not a lot of silver. Pedals are silver. So a little silver, a little contrast I like. It's got some 80 grit. I always sand the gloss off the pads. It likes to squeal, it likes to stay in the rim and cause squeals forever. So basically doing this pre-breaking of the pad. We're not really removing any longevity from the pad. We're just getting this gloss off. Why wouldn't that have grease all over it? Trying to keep my greasy fingerprints off the actual pads. My way. I knew that was going to happen. We're just going to get them on there kind of roughly where we think they'll go. And we'll fine-tune them once the cable's in. Pads are directional, so you have to put them on with this little metal thing facing the front so the force of braking doesn't shoot the pad out. You put them on wrong, you can shoot the pad right out. So don't do that. Now they're about where they're supposed to be, and up about as high as they're supposed to be, and totally flat. So now we can definitely set that cable up without too much trouble. Front wheels can be tricky. These nuts can walk on the dropout and can pull the whole wheel super crooked or weird. If you get in trouble at all, put it on the ground. You put all your weight on the stem using gravity to force the fork down the wheel and hold it straight. And then you can tie it up and do a little bit on both sides, gently snugging. This thing's starting to look like a bike. It's getting cool. I'm going to put it on the ground, let's get the wheels on it, and play with this seat post, man. This would be so much cooler if it fits. It's quite crusty. See if a rag can wipe some of this old dead grease off. You can actually read the size. Oh, I think it says 26.8. Shoot. Now our choices are, it's the wrong size post, and 27.2 will fit fine. Doesn't look smushed. Doesn't look smushed. It might look a little smushed. Got some reverse pliers. People love stick and seat posts that are too small into bikes. Open it up with these reverse pliers and see if that changes anything. Not really. It's 26.8. It being a slightly smaller Japanese size, I'm going to try and find a silver post that size that matches. It's kind of cool. This one's a little scruffy and ugly. Or I can just use it. Or I can dig around. Just clean this one. Worst case, we can do the same trick where we take a bit of Scotch-Brite and scuff the post to give it a nice brushed finish. And we can always do that to the stem too to make it match. I thought I was going to have to give up. I thought I didn't have one, but then I remembered a friend of mine traded me this gloss black 26.8. I told him I needed 26.6. So I got it. I was like, oh, I can't use it. That sucks. Can't use it on that Bridgestone. but I can sure use it on this guy. It's been cut down a little bit, so there's a little bit of a lip on the bottom. And that lip makes it too big, so I'm going to hit that with a file. So this little lip from cutting it means this just a tiny little razor thin edge on the bottom is raised. You can put this on a bench grinder or deburring wheel, or just take a little hand file and just at a nice angle, just make sure that this bottom lip is less than 26.8 instead of more than 26.8 or 27.2 or whatever. And this way it won't scratch up and burr and damage your seat tube. Get in there, fresh grease. I just grabbed a generic saddle I don't care about. It looks brand new. Well, it's minorly scuffy. Whatever, it's newish and blackish. And did I put this post in backwards? Usually the adjustable bolts on the back side. I don't know. I don't care. Hey, alright. We're just going to basically get it pretty close to level. Pretty close to centered. Unfortunately, I don't think I have time to finish this bike. Just stem swapping cable and housing and test ride, and it's real close. Because it's Christmas Eve, and I have to go meet my family first. Seat's a little crooked. My favorite way to get it straight is to line it up down this whole top tube, and with it slightly loose, you can just sort of give it little taps. Also, most people actually like their seats being a little crooked. It doesn't smash their junk as bad. So, you know, to each their own. Clean excess grease as we go so we don't forget. You don't want this all over your pant legs, all over your customer's pant leg. Oh, so fixy, bro. So cool. Yeah, feeling guilty on time. Gotta go, even though we're so close. Maybe I'll just do the stem real quick, too. It's gonna take like 2 seconds. Black Sakai Vintage but gloss. Righty tighty lefty loosey from the perspective of the bolt, not from the way you want it to go. It's a hard concept. Oh yeah. Basically the exact same stem but in black. Basically. Hey, the hammers you try hard with. I'll hide all that damage and make it look a little better. That way we know it's down past the minimum line. Oh yeah. Yeah. Get a load of this thing. Vintage black mountain bike headset, vintage black road bike stem, sort of 10 or 15-year-old vintage black 2-bolt kind of forward aggressive seat post, modern Alex Formula single speed wheel, kind of older Velocity Deep V in gold, both black hubs, black Sagino cranks, messenger ring. This thing's pretty dope. These gold and silver pedals. Still even some silver bolts and nuts. This bike has a bunch of chrome. I think it was almost fully chromed before painting. So it looks good when it was scraped or chipped. Got the gold fixie bars, black die comp brake and lever. This thing's gonna be cool, man. Schwinn Super Sport. Okay, it's Christmas morning. Before I take off, I'm gonna try and finish this build. We need a test ride after it's done. It's raining, it's Christmas, I'm not going to do it. All I really have to do is hook up this brake. So we might as well do it. I got an extra cable from Sunday salvage sale. I got a short extra piece of housing from some other build. I'm going to roll this barrel adjuster up, even though it's pretty smooth. I want to put a little drop of lube on it. Keep it that way. I'll roll it almost all the way down and then back up like a turn. Same thing with this one. Let's roll it out, put a drop of lube on it. All the way back in, then back out a little bit. I like to put it back out a little bit just in case you magically set the cable and housing up way too tight, which is very easy to do. You don't have to undo the whole thing and pinch the cable and mangle everything. Just some black housing. I had some smaller scraps so they're all like white. I didn't want to go that way. And you really want the cable and housing to be coming out totally straight for at least a couple inches. So if it's coming out in a horrible kink, you can see down here like that, it's just going to put a bunch of friction, make your brake feel terrible. So we want it pretty straight. Pinch the brake to where it's actually going to be. It's probably good enough. I like side cutters. Sometimes they can wiggle in between the stainless wounds and not just make them all sharp and messed up. Yeah, it's pretty clean. This side's looks like a factory side. It's terrible. Ugh. Usually the factory sides are nice and flat and ground. I'm trying to trim it as flat as possible without having the stainless coil wrap inside. We're just going to be rubbing the cable. I'm going to take the bench grinder and just flatten this dude out. You can also use a hand file. Ground these ends flat, flush, square. Got a little pokey tool. You can get this for like $2 Arbor Freight. I bought this for a friend's shop. It doesn't have any. It drives me insane whenever I'm over there working. Because I probably melted that little internal liner a little bit, so I'm opening it up, making sure there's no other burrs in there, making sure that cable's going to go through real nice. Got my little kit of all my spare and random cable ends and NARPs and ferrules and you name it. I got it. And some cable adjusters, braze-ons, cable stops, whatever, will fit ferrules, some will not. A lot of stuff on old bikes will not. Pop them on here anyways and check. It fits. It fits. Look at that. Pretty nice. Pretty straight. Got me a brand new stainless cable. I like stainless cables. Non-stainless ones are barely any cheaper and they rust. They corrode inside the housing. The brake won't work and it's stupid. I try and always use stainless ones if at all possible. Get in, there's the splice at the bottom, open it up so it all pops in. Turn it up to hold it in place. Feed this bad boy through. Go through, nice and smooth. No fights. Pull it through, be careful it doesn't make a really tight wind or bend or put a kink in it right up here. Because shift cable with a kink won't shift, and brake cable with a kink will always feel mushy and horrible. I like the old 3-way for this. I'm just going to pinch it, put it all together. It's pinched as tight as it can be right now. Everything's seated. I'm going to let it out just a little bit because we've got lots of barrel adjuster to tighten it up. And that's about where you want. I really like the lever to be about parallel with the grip. Some people like it to be as tight as possible. You just have no leverage that way. So you want some leverage, you want to be able to squeeze it, and you want to leave some room for the pads to wear out, but still not to bottom out in that grip. Yeah, I think that's pretty dope. And I want to make sure the brake is centered on the rim. So when you squeeze the lever slowly, it should hit the rim at about the same time on both sides. And it does. And then we want the pads to be about as high as possible on the rim. You want to see, like this is nice because it's anodized. So the anode's a little worn out from the previous brake. So you see a little gold ring on the top. It's like maybe 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters of gold. You want to get it all the way up to that gold. So you're not hiding it, but it's up. Technically, center pole and side pole brakes swing in as the pads wear. So you can actually set it to the bottom of the rim. Find the faded spot and look down and make sure it's all the way down there and not up too high. This one's a little crooked and maybe a little high in the back. I'm gonna lower it down just like a mill. Come on, buddy. Too high. If you get the brake pads way too high, and as the pads wear and they swing in and up, you'll get that pad to start hitting your tire and cause other problems. People always tell you to tow your pads in. That's nonsense in my opinion. I always set them up flat and see what happens. Flat is better. Towing in means they have to hit and squish and conform. You mostly just wear the front of your pad out really, really fast and the back never gets worn out. It's a waste of pads, a waste of time. I tow my pads in if they squeal, if there's brake shudder, if there's problems. And even then, I have to do one at a time. Sometimes towing them in will get them to stop squealing. Sometimes towing them out will stop squealing. Sometimes one will be squealing, and you adjust both. You'll fix that squeal, the other one starts squealing. And so I usually like to do one at a time. I try and listen and sound like, oh, it sounds like the front. Oh, it sounds like it's coming from the right side, not the left. Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. And then I'll try and, on real stubborn brakes, I'll mess with one at a time. Like I'll tow just this right front pad in. And if it's better or worse, it's worse, make it flat again. Better or worse, it's worse, reverse tow it. Goes away. Cool. Like, whatever it needs to make it quiet without being totally insane is the way to be. Got some sweet cable cutters. Cable cutters are cheap. They're a good tool to have. If you try other stuff, this will just spray and explode and cause problems. Nice little yoink. I got these ones for free because this little lip was mangled and they wouldn't lock. So no one cared. They're always open. So I took a file and just cleaned up that lip. Now it locks awesome. I dug through my little stash box of random NARPs and ferrules and things and found a gold one. Keep this theme alive. Dope, dope, dope. Plier pinch, will not slip. Look at this dope little guy. It is so dope. It's got some real vintage prestige with this old Schwinn Super Sport Japanese frame. A little scuffy Diacomp used stuff. Looks like it's been lived in, written. Looks amazing. Vintage stem, vintage headset, new grips, new tires, mismatched wheels, a little bit older front, not that old, really low mile rear. It's never had a brake on it. So sexy, so sweet. Just double check my wheels are in tight. Not really a lot of double checks you can do on a fixed gear. Put this on, it's tight. I think it's on the ground, it's level. We gotta make sure the stem is straight because we put it on the stand, and we gotta make sure this headset's still tight once it's on the ground. All right, double checks. We're on the ground. I'll stand over it. I'm gonna look and make sure that stem looks straight. I got astigmatism, so it's pretty hard. Sometimes I have to actually ride straight, and then I can see if the bars look like they're crooked while we're going down the street. This one looks to me like it might be off a little bit, but I can't tell. Make sure it's tight. Look at the angle of the bars. I like my bars to be kicked back just a little teeny bit. Makes it look more jaunty. Is this ready tighty? From the bolt's perspective, it is. Making sure that bar is tight. Having bars slip on you while you test ride is never a good feeling. Checking the angle of this brake lever. It's basically, you want to be able to have your wrists be totally flat on the bike, in a nice flat neutral position, and the lever be right there and comfortable. People are always trying to set their levers up level or up where you can see them. That just means you're riding at a horrible extension. You hurt your body. And tighten that, dude. Nice. Got this tightened up. Doing the double checks on the headset as well. I like to make sure you turn the bars sideways, grab a brake, and try and rock back and forward. See if there's any play. There's none. If you go this way, you'll feel the brake flex. It's no bueno. Make sure that it's buttery smooth still. Put your tool on it and just make sure the top nut is cinched. Make sure it's still buttery smooth. Make sure there's still no play. And get the rest of that excess grease off. I overpack all my bearings, so after a test ride or a few miles, sometimes some grease will be coming out of some stuff. I'll like double check it. Damn, there we are. Fixie build. Now this bike doesn't feel too small for me at all. The standover's pretty good somehow. And as soon as it stops raining, I'll go take a test ride, make sure nothing clicks or creaks or is annoying. What size are you? Life is so crazy. This thing's a 53 and the standover feels great. I mean, it's on the small side. It feels like a 55 or 6. Life's weird. Must be a real high bottom bracket. Just good for a fixed gear. It's like a 53 by 54. Might even just call it a 54. Center to top is like a 54. Usually measure Japanese bikes the top of the tube, but not the seat. Top tube's 54. I'm gonna call it 54 square. Whatevs. Oh, you know, it's got water bottle bosses. I don't want to leave it totally unfinished. I like to put bolts in, even though it's got, you know, all these brake bosses and shift bosses I'm not using. So I'm gonna grab a couple water bottle bolts. Just grabbed a couple of regular old M5 stainless bolts. Nothing special. Should probably grease these before I put them in, just to be a good person. Dipped them in the grease. Rubbing it around, spread the love. Now, if I was extra cool, I'd dig harder to see if I could find some black ones. Or really, if I had some gold ones. I think I have some gold ones, but they're crazy long. And brand new and expensive. I plan on doing a cool gold build for me one of these days. I'm not putting a water bottle gauge on here because accessories on bikes you're trying to sell lower the value of an RS. It makes them look dumb and clunky. You want it as clean and sexy as possible. And people can put on whatever accessories they want whenever they feel the need to. If you want to shop, it's great. Come back and buy them. So yeah, this thing's dope. I guess we should leave the chain. We'll leave the chain. Be super careful in fixed gears. There's nothing stopping this cog from moving. It is now a buzz saw. If you stick your finger in there, you will cut your finger to the bone or cut it all the way off. Remember the first person I was teaching about fixed gears, they wanted to learn. Well, that's the first thing I did was stick their finger right in there and cut it down to the bone. Guess they just didn't believe me. Just spinning it, barely squeezing the bottles. A half drop comes out in every link, on every chain link. Let it spin for a minute or two. Soak it up. Yeah. You guys want to know how much it weighs? We used to try and build light bikes at the shop, like handmade bikes, buy light parts. It was always fun to use the park scale and play Price is Right rules on guessing the weight. See who could come closest without going over. There's nothing particularly light about this. It's a good frame. It's Japanese. It's got thicker tubes. It takes a 26 AC post instead of 27.2. None of the parts are particularly light, but it's a fixed gear, so there's no derailleurs, there's no extra chain, no big heavy cassette, freewheel. That's gas. 20 pounds, 7 ounces. So that's 20.5 pounds about, so 16 ounces in a pound. So 20 pounds would be a very light road bike. 20 pounds is alright. It'd be cooler if it was less. 20 pounds is alright. You know, put a tie saddle on, light seat post, lighten up like nothing else. There's nothing to be lighter on this bike, really. Ultralight tires, not going to take more a couple ounces, but you could get it under 20 if you really threw some money at it. But considering most, production aluminum bikes and stuff are going to be like 25 to 30 pounds right off the bat. Walmart bikes are going to be 45, 50 pounds. Not so bad. So that is my vintage Super Sport into a 6 City Fixie build. Thanks for watching.